is going to be talking about medical emergencies. Sergeant Vaccaro with the police department will be speaking on some incidences that occurred in Baltimore County. And then I'd like to welcome BGE and Kevin Anderson talking about how BGE prepares for these emergencies. In the beginning of 20 standpoint, and we were really able to start to dive in to what the true meaning of the LEPC and the Tier 2 is about. And so this third quarter, we were able to start our facility assessments. We were out at Lockheed Martin. We were able to visit with DAP, BGE facility. We were at the Baltimore County Wastewater Treatment Plant and DeVita Dialysis. All these facilities, we were able to do assessments and make sure that they were complying with regulations unique to each one of their industries. We were also able to take part in multiple tabletop exercises. These Tier 2 facilities, we are now able to receive critical information about what is at those facilities from a chemical standpoint, from a process standpoint, and we are able to identify a point of contact that is educated on what those processes or chemicals are, so that we can be better prepared when we arrive to know who to talk to and mitigate these emergencies before they get outside of the confines of the facility. We also work to formalize our LEPC structures. And we're very excited to bring those to the community throughout the year. One of the topics that has been a very at a manufacturer show and was a presenter on how lithium-ion battery technology has surpassed safety and the work that needs to occur to increase that safety. She is an industry leader. She's on some federal review boards, and Baltimore County is really leading the way in how we respond to these emergencies. And the goal of the lithium-ion battery task force is to really make sure that our community understands the hazards, utilizes the technology correctly and works with strategic partners to make sure that we keep everybody safe from the community, from industry, and our firefighters as they respond. Ben Bosley, on the training side of things, has spent some time in Texas and been around the country working on developing our they are responsible for. We're going to work with them to make sure that their assessments, their pre-plans, their emergency plans are all up to speed so that we can provide the best resources and care to them as they are creating their products, and most importantly, to make sure that our community is completely safe. With us your email address. That will allow us to send you resources and invites to some of the meetings that are going to be coming in 2026. So please take a second and do that. It'll also be available at the end of the presentation. Tonight, identify these gas emergencies and make sure that they do not put communities at risk. He also works with the manufacturers in a research and development capacity so that he can create products that better help us identify these emergencies. And so I'd like to welcome Ben Bosley up here.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Again, thanks for coming out. My name is Ben Bosley. I am a fire specialist, Baltimore County. I'm also the LEPC training team lead. So tonight, we're here with the fire department just to explain what you should expect from us in a response for whether it's either a gas or electrical emergency and what the fire department brings for you. So first off, I'd like to point out that this is our brand new hazmat truck. Was delivered in the summer of this year. So when you first call 911, usually the first interaction you have is with a 911 operator. They're going to give you basic idea of what you should do, along with dispatching any of the resources that we're going to need. So the capability to evaluate any hazard, right, whether it's gas, carbon monoxide, electric, Whether they're EMS crews or fire crews, they are trained to that minimum standard, along with our career folks. Our career folks are all a minimum of hazmat operations level. And then we have also with our hazmat team that I showed you earlier, we have our hazmat technicians and our hazmat specialists that come out of either Station 13, which is Westview, Station 15, which is Eastview, and then our primary hazmat station, which is Brooklynville Hazmat. Right? So the 911 operator is going to give you some basic ideas of what you should do, whether it is to leave the with the electronic notifications and stuff like that, we can continue to pass on information, which is a very important part of this. So what you should expect from us, you should have a timely arrival, right? So sometimes we do respond. So sometimes we'll come without lights and sirens, but sometimes we will, and that depends on how the 911 operator and the information that they give, how we'll choose to respond to your emergency. You also should expect that we'll provide, whether it's fire, if you have an EMS problem, our fire crews do have BLS and ALS equipped equipment that they'll bring to you, and then I know is important in that. Efficient hazard mitigation, what's involved with that? So you should expect that we'll be able to use air monitoring. We should be able to have, to put out any fires or anything like that. And more importantly, to render safe your, whether it's your facility, whether it's a tier 2 facility or your home, residence, church, school, we have that ability to render safe. Baltimore County Fire Department will not leave a situation unsafe. So that's the biggest takeaway from this is we're going to find out that problem. And if we don't know what that problem is, we're going to call in other people, whether it is the satellite hazmat units, whether it's the primary hazmat unit, or if need be, any of the state resources. And then of course, clear communication and teamwork. Making sure that not only are we having communication with, with the crews on scene, but communication with you as either the business owner or the homeowner. You should know what's going on. And that teamwork, with the community and with us, that's how we get the job done most efficiently. And that's how you feel, you should feel like you are in part of the decision-making process and at least advised of what's going on and where we're going to go and how we're going to make your situation better. So, what do we use, right? So we have, on the hazmat unit, we have a whole bunch of meters. We have a whole bunch of different things that we can check for a whole bunch of different gases and so on and so forth. But our basic responses, right, from our fire engines, whether it's a ladder truck or a fire engine, we do have gas monitoring ability. So we do bring gas monitors to your call with a first due engine or first due truck that does not technically equate to what a hazmat response is. So what are we looking for? When you call us, we are going to look for flammable gases. Now we're a little bit different than, I know BG&E will be up here in a little bit. They're looking for a very specific gas, right? Because that's what they provide. In the fire service, we provide air monitoring for all flammable gases. So we have meters that look for anything that can burn in the air. So we will make sure that you are not in a flammable atmosphere, and if there is a gas leak, we have the ability to find that and render safe and at least call resources, and BG&E will be up here to talk about that shortly. We also have the ability to, right, and it's that time of year where carbon monoxide is going to be an issue. So carbon monoxide is obviously a gas that's used or a gas that is developed from incomplete combustion. So whether that is HVAC, if you're running a home generator inside, anything like that that produces carbon monoxide, poorly ventilated ovens, stoves, what have you. If anything is burning, carbon monoxide can be produced. So we have the ability to check for carbon monoxide levels at your home. So that meter is also incorporated into our first response. We also look for oxygen levels. We say, hey, if there's other gases here that don't burn or are not carbon monoxide, we call them toxic gases. So our oxygen sensor is actually very, very sensitive to those gases. So if there's anything else in the air, we can evaluate whether that is present or not present. And then if we actually see that happen, we can call the hazmat team and pull more specific meters out for that. And then finally, we have hydrogen sulfide. We've all gone down to the basement in the summer when it hasn't rained in a while and noticed that there's maybe a little smell around your sump pump or your sink or whatever. And that hydrogen sulfide smell, right, that rotten egg smell is what we're really smelling there. We have the ability to evaluate, hey, do we have a problem with that type of gas? So those are the gases that we actually look for in our basic hazmat response on a fire engine or a ladder truck. So we have additional resources. Like I said, we have Baltimore County Hazmat, which is our primary hazmat station, 14. We have stations 13 and 15, which are our satellite hazmats. And then finally, we have Maryland Department of Environment. Maryland Department of Environment is pulled in if we have a release of a chemical that can affect either you, a property, or of course the environment, right? We want to make sure that we render everything safe, not only just what's going on here, in the short term, but obviously what's going on in the long term. Along with that, we also have code enforcement. Either it's the fire marshal's office through the Baltimore County Fire Department, or Baltimore County has code enforcement. If you have any questions, you can most certainly call, any of the non-emergency numbers, or you can call 911 and ask and say, hey, I have a question whether, somebody should be running a grill or running a generator, right? If we have power outages, so on and so forth. If you notice that anybody's tapping into electrical boxes, maybe that shouldn't be, nobody should be messing with electrical boxes other than our BG&E partners. So if we see any of that information, please reach out to us. Fire department can send out representative, take a look at it and see what's going on, and then make the appropriate notifications. So with that being said, BG&E and Baltimore County kind of work hand in hand. BG&E looks for a very specific gas, right? They look for the gases that they are out there producing and shipping into your homes. We look for all gases. So when they're talking to you and they come to your scene, just be advised that we're looking for more global hazards. They're looking for more specific hazards, and I'll let them talk a little bit more about that when they come up there. But just to understand this, Baltimore Gas and Electric and the Baltimore County Fire Department do work hand in hand to make sure you, the public, and anybody who's in Baltimore County, the safest they can be. So with that being said, I thank you for your couple minutes. I hope you got something out of it, and I will pass it on.
Kathleen Long with Health and Human Services is going to be speaking with us next.
Thank you. There we go. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Kathleen Long. I'm here from Baltimore County Department of Health and Human Services. So first of all, I know this is a little bit of a different perspective from a public health perspective than some of the other presentations we hear tonight. So I wanted to give a brief overview of what we do at HHS day to day and kind of how that relates to the gas and electrical emergencies that I will talk about later in the presentation. So a lot of folks in here know this already, but HHS is a combined department. So we have the health department and social services department combined together. So on the health side of things, we offer things like clinical services, our health centers, behavioral health services, animal services. We have an animal shelter, restaurant inspections from our environmental health group, infectious disease programs, chronic disease programs, the list goes on. And then on the DSS side of the house, we have benefit programs that we administer, the foster care system within Baltimore County, and shelters for people experiencing homelessness, and also temporary shelters for emergencies as well. So you may know that we respond to disease outbreaks and maybe water contamination or food contamination or overdose emergencies, animal hoarding, etc. But why am I here to talk about gas and electrical emergencies today? And I'm here to tell you kind of about the part that we have to play in those kind of events as well. And I'm involved in those kind of events because the team, the small but mighty team that I work on at HHS is called the FEP team, or Public Health Emergency Preparedness. There are 4 of us, and we are charged with preparing for, responding to, and recovering from public health emergencies. So what we do is basically maintain written plans, run drills and exercises, maintain relationships with other agencies and organizations by going to events and doing things like this, or going out to do public outreach events and presentations as well. We also represent HHS in the Emergency Operations Center when that is opened. And something that we're used to, what I'm going to talk about today is a slightly different definition of electrical emergencies, in that I'm going to talk more about power outages than a true electrical emergency that causes a fire or some other issues. So when we're dealing with power outages, which we're used to happening pretty often, mostly from weather events that we may be responding to or monitoring for other reasons, we think first really about the healthcare facilities that we have here in Baltimore County. So we have 4 hospitals, 44 nursing homes, over 150 assisted living facilities. And I will mention that those facilities can range from 3 to about 200 residents, so they vary really widely. Each of them can be really different. There are also 27 dialysis centers in the county. And other facilities that we think about are the subsidized senior apartment buildings as well. We know that if there are power outages there or other issues, that's a place where a lot of kind of vulnerable adults tend to live and not have many other supports around them sometimes. And we especially monitor the electricity of all of these facilities during hot weather, because we know, and also prolonged outages that last a few days, because that can get really dangerous pretty quickly, especially in hot weather, if these facilities don't have backup generators or other backup plans. So in addition to the medical facilities I mentioned, we also know that there are folks out in the community living in their homes who also depend on electricity for their medical equipment. So people that have ventilators, oxygen concentrators, maybe cardiac devices, CPAP machines, at-home dialysis, etc. On the next slide, I have some examples of advice that we give to folks that may be in these situations. So what we really advise for people is to make backup plans ahead of time. Some options that they have is to ask their doctor or their medical device supplier about having backup equipment, such as an oxygen tank to be a backup for an electrical oxygen concentrator, or maybe battery banks to serve as backup power for the devices. Folks could also consider getting a generator, and like we just heard in the other presentation, they should not use them indoors. There are all the other things that sometimes are called generators, but are really battery banks that can be useful, and maybe inverters to charge electrical equipment from a car as well. Something else to consider is that a lot of folks nowadays have refrigerated medications, so that's something else. Maybe they're not on an electricity-dependent medical equipment, but they need the electricity to keep their medication safe and effective for them to take. So we also advise people to kind of have a backup plan for that as well. Make sure to have like a cooler and ice packs nearby if their fridge doesn't get electricity for a certain amount of time. And I don't want to take any thunder away from our BGE rep that's going to talk later, but there are also special needs programs through BGE that people can register for that can help, they can be given advance notice if there's going to be a planned outage in their area, for example. The next kind of response activity I want to touch on briefly is evacuations. So these can be for any reason, but we're here to talk about gas and electrical emergencies tonight, so that is definitely something that can cause an evacuation. And we are often involved with those, especially if it's a larger number of residents that are displaced. So we collaborate with the American Red Cross to help displaced residents and make sure that they are safe until they can either get back into their home or get longer-term housing in place. In addition to those response considerations that I talked about, we also go out and do community outreach before disasters happen. We do presentations and kind of health fair events or things like that, and we focus on personal preparedness messaging. So advising people to have an all hazards approach to their preparedness, creating an emergency plan, and creating an emergency kit for their home. I have materials for people of all ages, examples and brochures and things. And for the folks that are here in person, I have stuff available on my table to look at if you want to look at some examples of those after the presentations are over. And with that, thanks so much for your time.
Up next, we're going to be switching back to Captain Terry Reed with the fire department, talking about emergency medical problems that arise due to gas and electric emergencies.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. So we want to talk about carbon monoxide and electrical emergencies. So one of the things we want to understand is when the temperature changes, this is one of the things that is heightened in. Carbon monoxide is one of the biggest things. It's an odorless gas. It's odorless, it is colorless, and it's poisonous. Why is that? Hey, we don't even know. This is something that's very, very dangerous. And this is something you definitely want to call 911 for. It's an incomplete burning of carbon-based fuels like wood, natural gas, gasoline. It's dangerous because it binds to the red blood cells, so we want to keep that in mind. For the community, we always want to make sure that you understand, don't try to play with this. Please just call 911. Please allow us to handle it. We want you to also know we're not being insensitive when we come on calls like this. We want you to know that we are trying to protect you. So when we do come on calls, we're just coming in serious to want you to know, hey, we're here for you, but we want to protect you from this because this is very, very dangerous and this could lead to death or a serious poisoning. Some of the sources of carbon monoxide in the home, when people, hey, I want to start my car in the wintertime and I just want to warm it up and they have the garage door closed. Very, very dangerous. That carbon monoxide is steady building up in there. Again, you can't see it. You can't smell it. What about a generator? You have those generators that's running. Those fuels are just steady building up. Sometimes you have faulty water heaters, faulty furnaces, faulty refrigerators, faulty stoves. We have to think about those things. And sometimes we don't know the reason why they're faulty. So we have to be mindful of those things. What about people that decide to say, hey, I'm going to grill in my garage? Hey, we know they're not smart things, but they're not thinking about those things at the time. They're hungry. They want to eat. So we want to educate them and let them know, hey, that's not a bright idea. This is something that you shouldn't actually be doing. So in Baltimore County Fire Department, all our medical providers and all our engines, we all carry a Tango TX1 meter all on our medical bags. Why do we do that? Because remember I said carbon monoxide is odorless, it's colorless, and it's poisonous. So if any of our providers go in with this on our bag, and it's this little orange thing on our bags, and it starts to beep, at certain levels, we know it's danger. And at this point, we need to be heading out and we need to be taking whoever's with us, we need to take them out with us as well. We need to evacuate, leave the area. We need to be going into fresh air. It's very important that we get out. If we know where the source is coming from, if it's safe, only if it's safe, let's turn it off. Call 911. Call 911, especially if you have symptoms and you know where the location to the emergency. Let us know, hey, proper address. Even if you know cross streets, hey, give them to us. We'll figure out the rest, okay? Sometimes people don't function as well properly. They'll just give us cross streets, but we'll end up finding out where you are. But if you can give us that address, it'll be great. Also, sometimes you may get nausea, dizziness, and some type of confusions because the effect of the carbon monoxide may start bothering you. Hey, at this point, we need to get you medical attention. So please allow us to treat you. You may feel as though, oh, I'm okay. Let us do that patient assessment on you and let us just treat you just to make sure that everything is okay. You may even need to be transported to the hospital. Sometimes you think you're okay, you may not be. Allow us to provide for you as well. Also, let's talk about electrical shock, electrical emergencies. Electrical emergencies is when electrical current passes through the body, causing a range from a mild pain to a very, very severe injury, while like electrocution, specific term to death resulting from electric shock. Sometimes you have an entrance wound and then you have an exit wound if it's very, very severe. So we want to be careful with these type of electrical emergencies. More than 90% are generated by electricity. On a low voltage, deaths are from home, like a socket that's like a plug in your wall. But on high voltages are in the workplace. So we want like an industrial workplace. We want to be careful with those. Like people that work for BGE, it's high voltages when they're up there and they're doing their job. We want to be very careful. Or sometimes even when us from the Baltimore County Fire Department or any fire department is working out on scenes and their power lines is down, we don't always know which ones are actually live power lines or not live power lines. So we have to be mindful when we're out there on the scene. So the biggest thing is don't touch the person, please, because they still may be in contact with those electrical lines. So we have to be mindful with that. If we can, turn off the power source. If you can't, please just don't touch anything because we don't want you to get injured as well. If the source cannot be turned off quickly, if you can get like a wooden pole, anything like wood, please, nothing metal, because that's just going to allow you to electrocute yourself as well. But something wooden, if you can move the source, that's fine. Please call 911 right away with your local emergency number as soon as possible. Check the victim's condition. You don't have to touch them to check their condition. You can look at them to see if they're breathing, if they're conscious. If you can get to them, then you perform CPR. If you cannot, please do not touch them because we don't need to have two patients. We want to monitor just the one. Fire specialist Ben Bosley went over a lot of great things, and just know that the Baltimore County Fire and EMS, we all work hand in hand together. So he did go over a lot of things that we do as a combination in the Baltimore County Fire Department. And just always know we're here to work for you all, and anything that we can do to assist you, please reach out to us and let us know. Thanks.
Thank you, Captain Reed. Now I'd like to kind of shift a little bit to Sergeant Vaccaro with Baltimore County FID, and he's got a presentation on some of the emergencies that unfortunately have gone terribly wrong. So, Sergeant Vaccaro, I'm going to put this on you.
Other way. Good evening. I'm Sergeant Vaccaro with Baltimore County Police Fire and Explosion Investigations Team, Arson Team, FID. We go by a number of different names depending on what agency we're working with at that time. But we only average about one major response for like an explosion a year, which is pretty good because we find the utility is very rarely in trouble with us. We enjoy a very good relationship with BGE. And we're finding that every one of our incidents they're being investigated as criminal activity that's occurring downstream, we call it, of the service entrance. So some of our scenes are pretty labor intensive, but as soon as we get a call for a type of explosion, we're automatically listening to what's going on the Fireground channel. I'm calling the 911 center, or now that we have the police info center, I'll call them also and say, immediately get a recording of who calls in this explosion or the different types of reports that are coming in. We're also with our info center now, police department, and chiefs of the fire department here. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it. They normally have somebody that is plugged into, if there are video cameras in that area, they're already going to be up on them. So that's a good thing for us too, and for you guys as well as training purposes. But if we get a call like this, we're immediately getting other phone calls from our federal partners and our state partners and other local jurisdictions that are offering help. And because they're so labor intensive, we will take the help. This is 28 Crafton. This was an explosion in Essex that happened in April of 2024. This case has been adjudicated. That is the aftermath of the house explosion. And what we're seeing again, there's nothing wrong with the utility. The utility is very safe. That comes from BGE. It's very well maintained and it's engineered completely according to national and federal standards. But we're seeing that some type of human interaction is happening inside these houses. The last 2 explosions we've had in Baltimore County that involved natural gas were done by a homeowner who came in contact with a device that was, or an appliance that was being supplied by natural gas and has manipulated a drip leg connection from that appliance, allowing the structure to fill with gas. Again, we are immediately on the phone all the time when we get these explosions because we're looking for heavy resources in there. Fireground is a very dangerous place. Obviously, we report right to the incident command post to see what exactly the first arriving fire company saw, especially if there's a fire where the structure is still standing. We want to see exactly what they saw when they got there. Again, we're immediately, and for training purposes for the fire department, if we have these type of calls and you guys need us to do this, we have already got the 911 calls. We have the Fireground. We have the main channel. If it goes to EMS talk group, we'll have that. And we'll have the police department channel and the police department body cam. Very, very good resources for you guys to use if you're going to do after action reports. Again, first thing I do when I get to a scene like that as a sergeant of the unit is I go right to the command post, make contact with the incident commander and the first arriving engine or truck company to the scene. We'll start the scene survey right away. We'll cordon off the area with crime scene tape. We normally have a number of resources available to us through patrol services, and we'll immediately start canvass of the area for some type of video. A lot of the people we go to, a lot of the houses don't want to cooperate as soon as they find out we're police. But in general, we find out if we're dressed in turnout gear, they think we're the fire department. So they enjoy giving us access to Instagram and things like that, which is very helpful for us because we want to see exactly what is happening pre-incident. For instance, the one in White Marsh, the most recent one we had was in July. We have body cam of an officer from MTAP that was driving up 95 as that explosion occurred because it was right over the street, overside the sound barrier. And he saw it, and we got some of that on his video, his body cam also. So that's good for us. When we get there, we want to see how big this explosion is because we normally will have ATF responding with us. Everybody's like, oh my God, ATF's at the scene. Oh, that's a big deal. Well, ATF's at the scene because they provide resources for us that we don't have and other jurisdictions don't have. They immediately bring lab specialists out that can help us identify the different things in the area because what we're looking at when we get to a scene is where's the service entrance, where's it coming off of, what appliances are in the home and what are they supplied by. And we're starting to immediately isolate them as soon as we walk into a scene. Another thing we do is we'll identify who from the utility company is there and who we can make contact with immediately. We're conducting a background of the principals at the scene. If we see tags of vehicles, we're running them, especially if we cannot account for people. We want to start working towards accounting for people that may have been in the home or may be on vacation and things like that. So that's a little bit of an arduous task for us. But again, we just want to make sure that we're accounting for everybody in the home and pets as well. One thing that we do, because this is an outstanding technology that BGE has with the smart meter readings, we will obtain those smart meter readings. We'll also be looking from ADO and from police dispatch to see if there's any readings or any reports of gases in the area of any incident before we get the call for a response. I know this is yellow, it's a little hard to read, but this was 28 Crafton, and you'll see this was just normal usage, and this was a week in advance, and then you see just within like 3 hours of the incident, you have the top of the chart reading in there to let us know that something happened within that meter that's reporting something downstream. So we started to immediately look in that direction and account for the people that were at the house. So that's very good evidence for us if we're going to do a prosecution. Again, for us, this is a growing thing. The guys and girls in the fire department do an outstanding job of incident command. Police department is really not set up with incident command the way that you guys are. You do such a great job that when we have to use it, if we're working in FID, we're used to it. But to see police commanders and things like that get to a large scene, they just kind of follow around by the fire department because that is the way that they're going to learn. So for us, we immediately appoint a scene manager for the fire department or for the police investigators. We identify a staging area because we know we're going to have a lot of resources coming. Again, past, current, and future weather reports. This played a big role in July. We knew we only had a certain amount of time. We had about 8 hours to investigate this scene, and we got it done within 5 minutes of a major thunderstorm happening. And I think the same day it struck, we had a lightning strike down in Dundalk at one of the churches. So we have to stay in front of things like that because we want to see how much of our work that we can get done, and the things we can't get done, we're going to try to tarp it and come back later. But we're looking for any bit of evidence that we can get in these particular explosions, no matter how minute it is, and especially when you get a thunderstorm or winds and things like that, that's when we start to lose evidence. Again, on these incidents and some of this stuff we upload to the FID shared drive, which is on the county shared drive. You guys have access to this, so don't hesitate to use it when you need it for training purposes. And I generally will let the incident commander know, like, hey, we have put this in there. We'll also get the incident commander the access to the body cam or body cams of the police officers that responded, especially if it's good. We're starting to notice with the newer body cams that the cameras are a little bit smaller and they're not kind of poking up to where we need them to show. So we're trying to designate police officers, instead of trying to be heroes and running into burning structures or houses that have exploded, to actually just stand there and scan for us, because we want to see what the incident looks like from a first responder's eyes that's at the scene. So we're working on that. Lots of younger men and women in the police department. We're just trying to adapt the behavior a little bit. For us, comfort needs. Lieutenant Rudiso was at our scene. She called me that morning. She was on A shift, and she said, hey, do you have somebody to run safety? And I said, I'm overwhelmed, because I was the primary investigator. My lieutenant was off. I was the primary supervisor. My captain was off. I was the primary commander. It was just too much. So Lieutenant Rudiso came down and ran safety for us. But she basically ran the background of that incident. It was a huge help for us, because from that we got rehab, we got shade, we got food, and we had relief. And I had somebody actually running an investigator's log so we can know who was logged in and out of the crime scene, because we're going to charge somebody with that. That is something that the state's attorney and the defense attorney wants to see, is who was at the scene. We're also doing summaries. We have a major incident like an explosion, you can expect to see what we're seeing like that day. You're not going to wait a week until our weekly report comes out. You're going to see what we saw that day, because that is something we consider a significant incident. And this is ATF. They have this truck that's right down on Dorsey Road. For us, it's a great resource, because in that truck they have brand new scene tools. So we're able to use a new set of tools in case a defense attorney ever says, well, how long have you been using that shovel, and was that shovel contaminated from another crime scene? We can use equipment right off of this, because the ATF will take this equipment everything but a gorilla ladder, and they will get rid of it when you're done. They will store it in their evidence locker, and when we go to court, they'll give us access to it to bring it to court to say, here are the tools. They weren't used before, and they weren't used since. And also, we had the canteen, obviously, available to us, which is a tremendous resource. What we're doing immediately is we're trying to determine at the scene what exactly we have. And that's a lot of times why we have an engine standing by. And this goes for even regular, structure fire scenes or auto fires. We're trying to evaluate the need for a search and seizure warrant, because if we need that, then we're going to write a search and seizure warrant. If we're writing a search and seizure warrant, we're cutting the engine company or truck company loose, because we're not going to need them to stay as well, because we have the legal right to be there, because we had a fair and impartial judicial authority reading our search warrant. We also evaluate the need for a larger scene if we need an assistant state's attorney there that's going to prosecute the case to see what exactly we're seeing and work the scene along with us. Again, we account for pets. And at the location, what is there, what is not there. A lot of these places that you'll go to, and especially for structure fires as well, we'll take notice of, houses that, there was a TV on the wall, now there's not. There was furniture here, now there's not. Why isn't it? If the house isn't for sale and it's not vacant, where is this property at? Because we want to sit there to establish motives if we find out that the fire is an incendiary fire. Another thing we do is we do map piping. It's like arc mapping, if you've ever heard that. We're trying to find out how we have to account for every single section of that line, even if it's a gas line for the service from the main to the house. So again, we work closely with BGE to find out that if there are any problems within that line, if there are any breaches, any leaks or anything like that. We have found none of these problems with BGE. We find that, again, the utility is extremely reliable and it's safe. But when you get into the house, you start to see people that have done their own plumbing work, electrical work, and things like that, or have hooked up their own gas appliances. So that's where it becomes a problem for us. And again, there's a difference between an accidental fire and an incendiary fire. And it's the same thing for explosions. And we have to be able to prove motive if we think it is an incendiary fire and if we're going to make an arrest. So we're sitting from the entrance in the house where it's coming in from the drop, or from the entrance, we're looking all the way around at each one of these gas appliances to account for breaches. If it happened during an explosion, or if it happened prior to the explosion. And again, this is why we're bringing laboratory experts out from ATF. We're very fortunate because we have the national lab right here in Beltsville, Maryland, just closer to Washington, D.C., but we immediately get them moving on incidents like this, and they will do on-scene evaluations of your pipes and your appliances and things like that. Also, we're big with the accelerant detection canines. There are several new ones in this state, and everybody's looking for work, so you can be sure that you will see in those dogs on many of your structure fires that you guys are dealing with now. And that's ATF in the basement. This, I believe, is Rosedale, and we did have a positive hit with the dogs within the basement of that structure as well. We think we're surmising that that trailer was run in there with fuel as well. If you have any questions, my email's right there, as well as our cell number. Don't hesitate to call me. A lot of you guys and girls are on our list for distribution for reports. If you're not, just let me know and I will put you on there and you get a lot of the information. And we're trying to get it out in a more timely fashion, just in case you have any questions. If you have a significant incident, please let us know. If we go to the scene, you will have access to all the video, photos, and things like that. Reports that we have, we'll just upload it right to the shared drive. Okay? Thank you.
We're going to shift gears a little bit here, and we're shifting outside of Baltimore County, and we're kind of going to focus on the strategic partners that the LEPC works with that is outside the county. And one of those is going to be BGE, but I also want to talk some of our political strategic partners that allow us to reach the different communities that the LEPC focuses on. And I want to take a special minute And thank you, Senator Carl Jackson's office, for sending out Rachel Keats tonight so that she can see how our strategic partners work with the community and work with the industry so that we can better serve their constituents and all of our family members within Baltimore County. Our last presentation tonight is Kevin Anderson with BGE, and really the final presenter and our sponsoring host for tonight. So Kevin, thank you, and finish us out.
I'm going to bestow upon me the microphone. Thank you. All right, thank you, Cap. All right, good afternoon, everybody, or evening, whichever. I know a lot of people work shift work in here. So as Captain said, I'm Kevin Anderson with Baltimore Gas and Electric. First, I want to say thanks for having me. I spent 30 years in law enforcement, so my fire service brothers and sisters, thanks for what you do every day. And to our residents from Baltimore County, I am a lifelong resident of Baltimore County, so I appreciate the fact that you bring the resources, the talent, the experience that you do, and the professionalism every day. So thank you for that. Truly appreciate it. And lastly, my daughter happens to be an EMT with Baltimore County, so I have to get her a plug in too as well. With that, as the captain said, just here to talk about what you can expect from Baltimore Gas and Electric, and I'm specifically going to touch on natural gas. My job is the Senior Emergency Preparedness Specialist for BGE on the gas side. So what is natural gas? Natural gas is mostly methane, 85 to 90% or 98% methane with some other hydrocarbons in there, carbon dioxide, water, other components as well. What's our basics? Well, when you say you smell gas, you really don't smell gas. What you smell is an additive that we put in the gas, which is called mercaptan. All right? That's the gas that you may smell and report to either 911 or BGE directly. And that gas, believe it or not, is only explosive in certain gas level. 5%, if it's below that, it's too lean, it will not burn or explode. If it's above 15, it's too rich, it will not burn as well. So how do you report natural gas? You smell natural gas, you smell that mercaptan, that strong odor. You pick up the phone, you call 911, or certainly you can call our dispatch center directly. We have a dispatch center both on the on the gas as well as the electric side that is fully staffed 365 days a year. It looks very much like any other PSAP that you might go to in Baltimore County or any other place, and we have dispatchers there waiting for calls to come in. They will get out a gas service mechanic to the scene for you to ensure that the safety of the citizen first, and then we will make sure that the structures and everything else is safe. So what does our first service or our first responder look like? You'll see one of these vans in your community. They'll be roaming around. They will respond immediately to those calls for service of gas or an odor of gas. When they arrive on the scene, you will see them in their hard hat, their high visibility vest. They will identify with the incident commander from the fire department or whoever's representing the fire department at the time if they're on scene. They'll check in and see what they have going on. They'll then begin their assessment of what's going on. In most cases, they do not need to turn off the gas service to your home. That's important because a lot of folks say they're going to call, it's in the middle of winter, I'm not going to have gas, I'm not going to have heat in my home. In most cases, they're able to do repairs without turning off the gas. However, if they need to reschedule or make a larger repair, they'll coordinate and make sure that's done. But as the fire department said, we're not leaving until it's safe. If we show up, we're going to ensure it's safe. We're going to ensure with the fire department, we're going to ensure with you, and we're going to communicate that with you to make sure your gas service is restored as soon as possible. QR code here, if you scan this, a lot of good information related to natural gas specifically. And again, if natural gas is detected, the technician will come out, they'll investigate, they'll identify where it's coming from. In some cases, it's beyond our equipment. It may be in the house beyond our equipment. We will let you know that as well. We will stop the gas supply, and you'll have to contact an outside provider to make those repairs. Sometimes you'll see larger equipment. This is if a large repair is needed. They may have to dig up a street, provide service line repair. Regardless of where it is, they will communicate that with you and the homeowner to get service back as soon as possible. But again, we will not leave until it is safe to do so. Also wanted to highlight some of these markers that you see out in the communities. Although most of our equipment is buried underground, some of these areas are exposed, maybe over bridges, gate stations, other areas that you may see. So if you have to report a gas odor and you don't have an address, you may have to provide a number off of one of these poles and say, this is the location that I see. Again, calling a number on the marker, providing those coordinates north, south, east, west of this location will be very beneficial to us. And some other things to consider. During gas emergencies, life safety is the absolute priority here for us. Second is the incident stabilization. And lastly, property preservation. As we move into the winter season, some of the things that you can do to prepare. Again, another QR you can scan and look at. But remember, keep your outside meters and vents clear of snow. Use a broom or brush to gently clear that snow from those vents. Make sure the exhaust vents aren't covered by snow or ice. And be cautious to avoid hitting buried equipment during snow removal. If you need assistance, you can call us and we'll come out and look at those vents for you as well. Number right there at the bottom. And again, 2 numbers specifically, customer service, but most importantly, natural gas. If you smell it, 911 or this number right here will go direct into our dispatch and we'll get service to you immediately. Thank you.
That concludes our presentations for tonight. I want to thank everybody for taking their evenings and joining us. I hope that all the information we provided tonight can help you and your families be safer and be prepared for when these emergencies arise. If you do have any questions at the QR code that we provided at the beginning, you can submit your question to us and we will answer them and respond and provide any resources that are needed. Thank you again.